Welcome to Allies or Enemies. This time we are talking about Imperium Classics and Imperium Legends. These two games are designed by Nigel and David Turczi, with art by the Mico. Both games use the same system, but have all different civilizations and starter cards. So basically different everything. Think less Pokemon Red Blue, and more unmatched Legends versus Cobble and Fog. But either way you go, the general premise is the same. You'll be choosing an ancient civilization, mostly real, sometimes mythical, to take from its early days through to its rise to empire. And much like Alexander the Great, you'll be doing this through deck building. Let's take a look at how that works.
Each of the Imperium boxes has 8 civilizations, and all of them play differently, and in some cases very differently. But for now, let's ignore the exceptions and just look at the core rules. At the start of the game, each player will have 5 cards in their hand, as well as a small deck, a civilization card, a face-down nation deck, and a face-up development deck. There's also a shared common market that's got a bunch of cards representing things like land, developments, and other civilizations. On your turn, you will have 3 actions that you can use to play cards. Some of those go straight to your discard, others go on the table to offer further actions when they're exhausted, at the end of each round, or when you get to garrison, which is basically putting a card under another card. There are also ways to add fame cards, which are good, unrest cards, which are not so good, and there's a history that lets you cull your deck. All of this is being done to gain points and resources, build your deck, and cycle through your deck. Every time you do cycle through your deck, you also get to add a card. First for free from your nation deck, and later by spending population and materials for even better cards that are waiting in your development deck. The game ends when one of the development decks is depleted, you get to the bottom of the fame deck, your market is out of cards, or all of the unrest is gone. Then unless it ended with too much unrest, you add up all the points from all those cards, and you see whose civilization is the greatest.
It is important to know that everything Sean just explained is mostly true, except that with 16 civilizations, there are bound to be a few rule breakers. And in Imperium, this is very true. While you can use different paths to victory with any one civilization, and a few interesting card draws from the market can change your game, the heart of the variability comes from the civilizations themselves. In Classics, this includes the Vikings, who never become an empire and have no history, the Celts, who spread unrest to their rivals, and the Scythians, who want to expand. While Legends has even more unique civilizations, with the Arthurians, who spend the game chasing quests to find the Grail, the Atlanteans, who have to fend off the constant threat of their lands sinking beneath the waves, and the Utopians, who have no nation or development deck and are instead trying to forge a path to Shangri-La. Each one of these will take at least a few plays to get the hang of, and a bunch more to master, so there is a lot packed in here.
While it is possible to play Imperium with up to 4 players, many might find that there is too much downtime. Turn can take quite a while, especially if your civilization has a lot of end-of-round cards, and because players tend to do their own thing, when you're not playing, you're mostly just waiting. For that reason, we'd recommend playing it either 2 players or solo, or maybe 3 if you're patient. 2 players, you still have someone to steal from or whose cities you can throw into unrest, and you generally have the right amount of time to plan your next turn while your opponent does their thing. And because there are plenty of opportunities to exile cards from the market, your buying choices never grow stagnant. That said, a lot of players may also pick this up just for the solo mode, which is cleverly implemented with a system that will take a game to get the hang of, but does become pretty easy to manage and does a surprisingly good job of maintaining the different feels of the different civilizations. With a mini solo campaign mode, I wouldn't be surprised to see this become the preferred way to play for many.
The big draw here will be the art. If you have any of the West Kingdom or North Sea games, you are already familiar with Mihailo Dimitrescu, aka the Mico, and he doesn't disappoint here. Each nation has its own theme that runs throughout the cards, with some clever and sometimes cheeky references. And speaking of references, there has been an impressive amount of work done to capture the history of these cultures, including nice little touches like the original Welsh names for Arthur's knights. If I had a few complaints, it would be that the card backs and resources and general graphic design is a bit plain and seems a little sterilized compared to the fronts. Also, the cards, while decent quality, feel a smidge almost plasticky, and we have seen a bit of fraying from too much shuffling, so you may want to sleeve them. But those complaints aside, it is a nice looking game.
Imperium is not a game that you are going to plomp onto the table and feel fully confident with for your first game. Like a comfortable hot tub, this is a game that's going to take a little bit of getting used to. Some have had troubles with the rulebook, which does admittedly skew a bit legalese for its own good, though a patient first run through with a low complexity civilization will alleviate most of that. You will also have to be okay with doing poorly in your first run through with most of these civilizations, as what works for the Persians will definitely not work for the Arthurians, but for many, including us, that is a big part of the fun. Gameplay itself's not that complex, but there's a depth of strategy that is multiplied exponentially by the range of civilizations. It's going to take us a long time to fully explore this game. If you want something that is a little bit easier from game one and will offer a bit more interaction, go with the Classics pack. If you want to up the complexity, explore some unique decks, go with Legends. Either way, if you want a mid-weight deck builder that does a pretty good job of delivering a Civ experience in 90 minutes, Imperium's a pretty good choice. And that is it. Please let us know in the comments if you have played Imperium and what your early thoughts are, or what other civilization games you might recommend. And please do like and subscribe, and hopefully we will see you all next time for another game.